Hi, Alea. Thank you for joining Safe Indian Point Demolition Candidate Forum for discussion on the safety issue.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much to everybody on this forum for advocating and doing what you do,
Thank you.
and bringing awareness, because a lot in the community, a lot of people had no clue until we started to see your presence, and it's really important
Appreciate
to
that.
raise awareness. Absolutely.
And yeah, I think important that we're doing this so as to elucidate candidate views on the overall demolition process and what it means for the school. So thank you and to all the candidates for coming on this. So kicking off, what, if any, concerns do you have sending your kids to BB Elementary, considering the school's proximity to the ongoing demolition of Indian Point?
I have a lot of concerns, not just with the demolition. I have concerns with the gas pipeline being 400 feet away, and the fact that its circumference is greater than the depth at which it's buried. It's 42 inches, buried 36 inches deep. And there's been very, very little oversight in terms of its expansion. There's been sinkholes around it. So the fact that that's running right by the plant that's being decommissioned and there's active demolition that will be going on is extraordinarily concerning to me. I have concerns about radioactive dust. I have concerns with storage of tritium infused water. There's just a lot, and the company, people should know, Holtec does not have longstanding ties to our community, and they have never, ever successfully decommissioned a plant. And they have a host of safety infractions. So yeah, every single person in this community should be concerned about having children in the school being on the actual footprint of Indian Point.
Okay, thank you. So given that you have those concerns, what do you believe the administration should be doing to protect the kids and the staff at BB Elementary during this demolition process?
I think at minimum, they should be advocating actively to have the facility tented. They should be petitioning the federal government. I don't know what they've been doing, but I know Lauro has been making headway, and that's one of the things I would be pushing for. I mean, obviously, if they could get that gas pipeline shut down temporarily and have that energy source rerouted elsewhere while demolition went on, that would be amazing. I think I think that would greatly help. I don't know how many schools are in such proximity to a gas line and a nuclear power plant and being decommissioned. I mean, there's a lot of variables here of things that can go wrong. So, I mean, I feel like it shouldn't be hard just to get the government's attention to this and getting those things done. Bare minimum would involve radiation monitoring in place. I mean, I know we have the funding for it, radiation-proof windows, blast-proof windows, and a protocol to figure out, what are we doing? Are we sheltering in place? Are we evacuating? How are we evacuating? Like, what are the steps? I don't even think we have a protocol. So the administration should be working on all of the above. At minimum, listen, it's great. They got $500,000 grant back for the monitoring. We do need that. But a lot more needs to be done, for sure.
Okay, thank you. And so you've obviously know the 500,000 state funds are coming to us for the enhanced environmental monitoring. So a bit of a difficult hypothetical on this, but as part of the process, you might know that we have to do baseline testing in order to set the parameters against which we're going to be monitoring. So what if the unthinkable happens, and as we're doing this baseline testing, we do find some sort of contamination that renders the school unsafe? What should we be doing in that difficult scenario?
Calling a lawyer. I mean, doing a lot of advocacy work. I mean, the kids have to be moved out of the school immediately, obviously. But medical testing, all of that. I mean, this is a tremendous liability. I remember what happened with Briarcliff Manor when there was contamination in the soil and all those kids came down with cancer. So those kids would have to be relocated immediately. Obviously, they couldn't endure any more exposure. And there would need to be a plan set up in the future to monitor their health and whatever implications would have, sort of like the World Trade Center Health Registry, similar thing when we were all exposed to dust and particles in Lower Manhattan. It would have to be the same thing.
Understood. Thank you. And so final question would just be for you to address the families in the Safe Indian Point Demolition Facebook group. And so what in your experience or your interest makes you the right candidate to represent their interests around safety on the Board of Ed?
Well, there's my personal interests. So my background, I grew up in Lower Manhattan, just a few blocks from the World Trade Center. In fact, I was supposed to work there in Tower 2 on 9/11. So I was right there. So our whole area was exposed to asbestos. We had FEMA workers come to our door in full-on hazmat suits and tell us to, we had to evacuate. The air was not safe. My own grandfather, he did not evacuate, and he passed away within 4 years. 4 years. Yeah, he passed away in 2005, so that was 2001, of lung cancer. But I mean, I had countless neighbors that came down with all different forms of cancer, weird cancers. And I mean, I think it was obvious. It was like within a decade, there were people who were like first responders down there who would, just because you didn't know what to do, right? When it happened, you went down there to help. So having seen and witnessed all of that made me acutely aware of environmental hazards. Also in my job, what I do as a realtor, I'm also an advocate for my clients. I sat through like, I don't know how many home inspections. We take mold courses. We have continuing education in asbestos and all types, to learn about environmental hazards and risks. Also advocacy points we're trained in. So for me, I am an advocate. I mean, that's what I do, and that's a passion of mine. I've successfully fought for my clients against building departments routinely and won. I'm not very popular with a lot of building departments because I'm tough. But I've written letters on behalf of my clients for them to send in, written to town supervisors, health departments, and all of that. And just my experience having been through these inspections, understanding mold risks, getting trained in all of that, understanding biohazards in the environment, asbestos risks, mesothelioma and all of that, how best to remediate and remove, like for instance, you got to wet down asbestos and stuff like that, and there needs to be HEPA, and there's a whole procedure in place and things like that. I have a baseline understanding, so I'm not saying I'm have a great understanding of, I'm not a nuclear physicist or anything like that, but I'm also keen to learn. And as you probably know, I research like crazy. I'm very facts driven, and I always make sure that I know what I'm talking about, because I really look under the hood. I make sure I know everything. I'll consult with different consultants, like even with Holtec, I reached out to them to find out more about what was going on in terms of the water situation. What was their schedule? What type of water are they dispersing, and when, so I do that so that I can hold people accountable for what they tell me, and so that I can get the facts. But I'm relentless. Anybody that's ever worked with me will tell you I do not let up, and I get results. So one of the things I would want to do is be an advocate, particularly for the community and for those kids down there, to make sure that this company that's not really tied to our community, is pretty spotty on safety, has proper oversight and does the right thing by us, and that the federal government does the right thing by us.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Alea. Appreciate your sharing some of your views and insights into the demolition and helping the voters understand the choices. So thank you for joining.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dan.